I created this wine glass facade for a building in Revit, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do the same. So we're going to start with a new project. I'm going to go ahead and click file, and let me just get there. Go ahead to new project, and I'm going to use the architecture template to actually do this. So now we're here in the brand new architecture template. It's currently set to metric units. So the first thing you want to do is to bring in a wall as a reference. So what I'm going to do is to just choose a wall. It doesn't really matter which material type of the wall that you're using. We just need it to act as a reference. So just go ahead and click on space and give it maybe 3 or let's say 4,500 meters. That's probably too long, so just 3,500. And okay, so we have our wall reference in place, and this is where, if you look at the 3D view, we're going to actually build the wine glass facade on this wall. The next we're going to model the base and the top of the wine glass facade. So I'm going to go into component here, and instead of placing a component, we're going to model it in place. And for this, I like to use generic models, so I can actually just go on to create it and give it a name for what I'm looking for. So we're going to call it wine glass base, and go ahead and hit OK. And once that's done, we're going to select extrusion. Currently we're in the modeling phase now. You can see that the create option is now available, so we're going to go on to click extrusion, and in the extrusion tab, first of all, you're going to make sure that your reference plane is set to the level 0. I think by default it's going to be set to level 0, but just to be sure, set your reference plane and make sure it's on level 0. So now we're going to model the base of our wine glass. So I'm going to pick a center ends arc. You can actually use whichever arc you're looking for. So I'm just going to first of all pick the center of the wall, pick the second end of this wall, and then just go over like this and get the other end. So now we have our base in place, the semicircle. I'm going to offset this. Where is the offset button? Here we go, offset instead, and we're going to offset it by a value of 150. We can always change this anytime we like, but I'm going to use 150 for starters, and then model it inside. So we're going to join these two lines as well. So just go over here and pick this, drop it in here. What we're doing here is to create the extrusion boundary. So once we're done with this, I'm going to show you how it looks like in 3D. So we're going to just look at the 3D. So currently it's set to the wrong side of the wall, which is awkward, but we can obviously change that very quickly. And I think I'm going to just select the entire wall like this and hit mirror pick axis, and I'm just going to select this part, and so we have our second one now. So technically we could have 2 wine glasses, but let's just do one. So I'm going to select the second one that is here and delete. That wasn't supposed to happen, but it did, so here we are. We have our wine glass facade in the correct place now, so we can just select, that's the base, just select accept, and once that's in there, you can see that we have our baseline, our base of the wine glass selected now. So we've built something. You can look at it in a straight form. That's the base as it is. You can now go ahead and use these arrow lines to actually drag it to however distance you want, but I chose 150, so it's going to stay at 150. Just going to bring it back down wherever 150 is. And now that we're there, we're going to copy this facade and move it up. So we're going to just go over to the copy column here and just click the top corner of the facade here, and then take it all the way to the top of our building frame and accept. It's refusing to do that. So now we have 2, which is a problem. So now, because the reference plane is set to level 0, we can't actually drag this thing manually up, but we have 2 extrusions here, and I'm going to prove it to you. If I move this arrow up, I can increase the length of the depth of the extrusion, and then I'm going to just do the same thing here, and you can see that we have 2 extrusions. So now that both of them are on the same level, we can just move this extrusion up and then move the base of the extrusion up as well. So I'm going to drag this all the way to the top, and then follow along with this and drag it all the way to the top. So now we have the base and top of our wine glass selected. and we can then go ahead and model the wine in between and then the wine glass itself using sweep. So before we get into the sweep, if you do enjoy architectural videos like this as well as Twinmotion videos, remember to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified when more of those videos do come out. I do go on to try and make them for this channel, so if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to make more videos like this in the future. So first we're going to select sweep, and if you go ahead and click sweep, you're going to have to sketch a path for that sweep where it's going to go, and this path is going to serve as the shape of our wine glass. So we're going to just sketch a path, and it's still going to ask us again, where do you want this path to go? But this time we don't want it to be on level 0. We want it to be in the, what view is this? Right view east elevation. So that's where we want our sweep to actually go, on the east elevation. So I can go ahead and sketch level 0, or pick the reference plane, set it to level 0. I can try picking a plane because the east elevation plane is not actually selected, so you can try to pick a plane and then click OK, and notice that it's not actually allowing us to set a plane. So we're going to cancel this and draw a reference plane in that spot. So what we're going to do is just go over to reference plane in the create tab, select reference plane from the datum column, and then go ahead and draw a straight line right in the middle. I don't think mine is in the middle. I'm going to have to undo that, and again go over to reference plane and find the midpoint of this wall and draw a reference plane on it. You can name the reference plane path for sweep. Doesn't really matter what you name it, or you can name it like that. And then we go using that reference plane, we're going to draw the path for the wine glass. So you can just sketch the path, go back to set reference plane and look for it, path for sweep. You can now choose that. It's going to ask you if you want to use west and east, and basing on the looking at the cube that I had a sneak peek at before, we're going to use the east view, and we're going to open that. It's going to show us like this. So okay, now we're going to have to use our artistic sense to design what an hourglass would look like, or a wine glass would look like. So from the top of this, I wanted to actually start at the middle of the baseline. So I'm going to just choose one, and we're not going to use straight lines. We're going to use polyline or spline tools. This creates a curve like this. So this is what we're going to depend, or we are going to use to create our hourglass or wine glass shape. So I'm just going to select spline and go ahead and click the starting point. That's the first one, and we're going to find how we can eyeball this. Let me just go somewhere here and start curving it up, and the slower points the closer you choose points to themselves, the easier it is for you to curve. So I'm going to move up a little bit like this, somewhere there. Forgive me for not giving you dimensional directions, but at this point we're basically just using reference plane is slightly off axis and may cause inaccuracies. Okay, we're just going to find our way to keep clicking. It may not be perfect as a wine glass should be, but we have to make our attempt at doing this. You can obviously go and tweak the sweep whenever you're done drawing this. So you can just keep going like this. Okay, I do want it to curve this way, but I want it to curve inside of the top, and you can then say escape. So that is somewhat our shape of a wine glass. You can let me know in the comment section if this wine glass shape actually looks good, but nonetheless we're going to accept our shape of wine glass, and now we are going to have to sketch what the sweep profile is going to look like. So next we're going to draw what the strips that represent our wine glass shape is going to look like. You can go to edit profile here and just click it, and then it's going to take you to any of the views that you want to use to draw this. We're going to use 3D view, but another way you can do that is to come to the reference line created by the sweep in here and just double click it real quick, and it's going to bring you to the same menu that says go to which view. I'm going to use 3D view because I'm not sure of any of the other views if it's going to give me the angle that I'm looking for. So I'm going to use 3D view for this, and it takes us here. So what we're going to do is actually use the cube to direct this. So we're going to just tilt it like this, and since we're here, I'm going to change this from shaded version to hidden line so I can get to see white. I want to see it in white. So now that we have this, we're going to draw an ellipse because I want that strip to look more like an ellipse rather than a rod. So we're going to try something, hold it like this and then just swing it all the way. 360 might be too much, so we're going to try something along the lines of, okay, let's go with 360 by 150. Okay, now looking at this in relation to everybody else, it looks quite thick, so we're going to have to edit that a lot. So you can go over in here. 360, like I said, looked a bit much, so 255, and then we're going to drop this 150 all the way down to 75. Okay, that looks better. Still slightly bigger than I want it to be, so we're going to make this 210 by 75. Okay, it looks like it has the strip that I'm looking for. As it is, it's still too big in my eye, so let's make this 185 by 75. How about that? Okay, so once that's done, we're going to settle for this instead of dancing back and forth. We're going to set, now that we have our view in place and our profile of the strip and sweep in place, you can go ahead and hit accept. So there goes our profile. The next thing you want to do is to accept, because the path of that sweep has already been set and we've designed the profile already. So we're going to click accept in here. Can't create sweep. So I think we had an error in our first sweep because we didn't draw it in a good plane. We drew it in 3D, which wasn't really easy for Revit to understand. So we're going to use the level 1 floor plane to actually do that. So we're just going to go in here and delete this, and we're going to go over to level 1. Just go over to level 1 floor plane and try to draw it using that. So let's say 150 by 55. Okay, we can now go into 3D and try to accept that. So now that this profile is sketched, you can go ahead and click finish, and there we go, we have one. Okay, 150 looks quite wide for what I'm looking for, so we're going to have to edit that as well. I'm going to edit this sweep, mainly this one. Edit the profile of the sweep, and edit the profile. Go back to level 1 again. I think it was set to 150 on this side, so we're going to make it 125 now by 55. Hope it makes a difference, but we can accept this. Not much difference, but anyway, what we're going to do next is to copy. Okay, looking at it from this, before we copy this element into an array to form the complete wine glass, we're going to have to edit this thickness again. It looks still too thick for me, so we're going to go back to this and edit the sweep, mainly the profile of this sweep, and instead of 55 we're going to pick 25, perhaps 15. Yeah, just accept it as 15 and then go ahead. This is likely more of what this is more of what I'm looking for. So now we're going to have to array this sweep around the model. So in order to array this, and to me this is the toughest part of this whole process, in order to array this, we're going to actually rotate this sweep that we just finished creating. We're going to rotate it to the horizontal axis beside the wall, because we need to create an array from that first element to the last one. So we're going to first of all click the rotate command, select the sweep and then press enter. And from there we can actually move the angle of rotation for this sweep all the way down like this, and we can just move it to the side a bit. Okay, so there is where we want our sweep to start from. You can use your arrow keys actually move this, or you can just align it to the wall setting so it doesn't just glue to the wall. We can start from here and then go ahead to click the array tool, and just there you see this blue dot on the array. We can actually move this dot to the end of the sweep here that is on the reference plane. Just move the dot to the reference plane. That's where our rotation of the array is going to start from. So our array is set to radial, not linear array. It's set to radial array, group and associate. Now we need a number of 7. You could type 6 in there. 7 and 6 is quite okay, but I'm going to go with 7, and we can just click from this region here and then rotate it all the way to the left hand side and accept. So now we have our rotation for the array in place and our array has been set. So once that's 7, you can press accept because I want it to be 7, and go ahead and click accept, and you can see that one of our sweep is actually leaning closer to the wall. This part is quite tricky and you can actually overlook it because in the grand design it may not really pay attention like this. So but because I'm really obsessed with this thing, I might just try to drag this slightly down a bit. You can drag this dot to actually move your limit of the array up and down. So I'm going to try to drag mine down to see what happens. Just a little bit. Okay, that's going to space the array a bit, but it has taken my sweep into the wall and I don't want that, so we're going to go back to where it was before. I think I prefer that, so it doesn't really matter. So go ahead to the 3D view. You can see that we have our wine glass in place now. So all that is left for us to do is to actually create our wine inside the wine glass, and for this one we're going to use a different form of extrusion called the So in order to create the wine in between the wine glass, what we're going to do is we're going to use the revolve tool. And to do that, after selecting revolve, there's 2 options you need to pay attention to: your boundary line and then your axis line. The boundary line is going to be where the revolve is going to roam and stop, and then the axis line is going to be the axis of revolution. So we're going to show you how that works in real time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the east elevation. I have it selected here, but in case you don't know how to get there, we're using east because that is where we have the best view. If you look at the cube, there's right hand side is facing east on the cube, so we're going to use east so I can actually see it the way I want to see it. So you can go over to elevations here in the project browser and then go over to the east elevation. It's going to give you this. Thank God we have our reference plane available from the path for sweep. So go ahead and choose that reference plane. You're going to see it highlighted here. Select OK because that's how we're going to draw our boundary line of our revolve. So instead of using normal line, we're going to use spline tool or polyline, whichever one you normally call it. So just start from here and try to trace that hourglass figure for the wine, because the wine is going to be inside the wine glass. So we're just going to go around it, and the closer you have your points, the easier it is to actually curve the line. So for closer end curves like this, I like to make the points closer. So we're going to just design the spline or the polyline points and try to get that shape of the wine inside the glass. Now we don't need to go all the way to the top because we're going to assume that the wine glass is half full and not completely filled up. So we have a curved shape at this end. We can go ahead and use normal line now and pick one end here and then go all the way to the left hand side and go down closest to, okay, that's good. We can join both points here if it's even going to agree. Okay, I'm just going to leave it there and then use another line and join these two together. It looks stubborn right now. It is. It's very stubborn. So we're going to drag this to the end. Hopefully it creates a boundary. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to zoom in manually to try and make sure that both ends actually meet. Shouldn't really be a problem, but you never know with Revit these days. Anyway, that's the boundary line, and if it's wrong, we're going to know from the software itself. So we're going to go ahead and select the axis of revolution now. The axis of revolution is going to be a straight line on this horizontal like this, but don't let it touch the profile boundary that you just finished creating. That's the pink line. So I'm just going to hover slightly to the left and then pick one point and go all the way down to the end of where the boundary actually stops and select the second one. So that's our axis of revolution. Now that's been set. Very important next step now. Go to the properties panel and you can see the start angle and the end angle. You want to change the end angle from 360 degrees because I did have a lot of problems with this the first time I tried using Revolve. Change it from 360 degrees to 180 degrees. With that set, you can then apply your Revolve and then go over to this column here. We can switch to 3D now, I think. And so we have what our hourglass or our wine inside the glass is going to look like. Go ahead and hit accept. And there we go. We can see that our wine is inside the glass, but it's on the wrong side. So we're going to have to rotate this using a different view. Let's try level 1. Okay, that's not actually giving us a good view. So we're going to try top view. So what we're going to do is to rotate this using common logic. So we're going to roll this all the way to this end, closest to the wall, and then have that in there. So we're going to go ahead to roll this other one backward a bit. There we go. So that's our wine inside the wine glass. So the last step that we're going to do now is to change the material of each of these elements. So the first one that we're going to do, this part is bonus because you can actually leave them using all the same material, but I feel for rendering purposes they need to have separate materials. So first we're going to select the base and go over to the material category here, material properties, and change it from by category to a different material entirely. So now that our material browser is open, you can scroll for aluminum barrier. Let me look for aluminum. You can use aluminum for this since it's metal, but I'm just going to pick another form of metal if possible. Okay, there's iron ductile in here. I think I like iron for this particular issue. So now that the iron is selected, go ahead and accept. And so the bottom, the base now has a material of iron. The first, that's the top. We can go ahead and switch that to iron as well. Let's go select iron ductile material. With our iron selected, go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to do the same thing for the strips. These array strips that are in here, I have to pick them one by one. So I'm going to select so as much as I'm trying to select the array elements, I can't actually change the material in the properties panel, so I'm going to have to use a sort of alternative method to do this. And we're going to paint the iron material on those surfaces of those strips that are representing the wine glass body. So you can go over to the geometry in here and you would see a small icon just below the, what do you call this again? It looks like there's a small material plus a cube here. So just go ahead and click that. You're going to see paint and go ahead and select paint. It's going to throw you the material browser real quick, and then you can see we have iron selected in here. Just go on to pick iron, and over there your iron is going to be attached to your mouse pointer now. So you're going to go manually and you can see sweep is selected to face. So we're painting the face of the material now. So we're going to go ahead to the first strip that is representing the wine glass and go ahead and select, just click one. Changes to group are allowed only in group mode, so use the group edit command to actually do this. So you may ungroup the element, but that's not what we're looking for. We need to do it to everybody. So I'm going to cancel this and go ahead and choose edit group, just like they asked us to. So I'm going to edit the group, and once that's done, we can go ahead and do this manually. I'll pick paint in here, pick iron, and select the face of our material and choose. Click finish. I can go ahead to the next one, select this and edit group. Once you select one, go ahead and hit edit group, and we're going to apply the same paint material of iron to this one as well. So I'm going to do that for everybody else in this group. So like I said, adding the materials is a bonus, but right now as it is, this is the complete version of your wine glass, and you can see the wall where it's leaning on. And that's how I was able to go about creating this wine glass. And if you followed along with this video step by step, or if you do have additional questions about how I was able to do this, you can let me know in the comment section, or if you have other recommendations for structures you're trying to create in Revit, you can also let me know. So thanks for following along with this video. And if you want to see me render this building with the wine glass here in Twinmotion, you can also let me know in the comment section. You can subscribe to the channel for more architecture videos like this. I'll see you in the next video.